This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Alright, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. Alright, it's Friday. I think it's Friday the 13th. Did not notice that. So hopefully today's show goes pretty well. I mean, Friday the 13th isn't usually supposed to bring some bad stuff, I guess. But no, not really. I'm not really superstitious or anything like that. But either way, like I said, Friday, April 13th, and here's what's going on today. We got Dez Bryant. He got cut, okay? Cut by the Cowboys, no longer throwing up the X for that team. And I don't understand. Like, I was thinking about today, what's the whole throwing up the X thing? What does that mean? All right, makes no sense to me. But nonetheless, he got cut. We're going to be talking about that, talking about the possible places he could move on to. So we'll see there. We got Champions League. Semifinals is now set. We got Liverpool versus Roma, Madrid versus Bayern. So we'll be talking about that today. We're going to talk more about the NBA playoffs. All right, got some thoughts as far as maybe some upsets I got going on, possibly. All right, fourth segment, we're going to be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports and making my picks for this weekend's playoff games. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing. We had some hockey yesterday too, so we'll probably talk about that in the fourth segment, see what else is going on in the sports world. But nonetheless, that's how the show is going to go. So let's get into it. First up, like I said, Dez Bryant. This whole little Dez Bryant thing has been going on, I guess you could say, for about a couple months, since the season ended, honestly. All right, him and Dak Prescott didn't really seem like they ever saw eye to eye, really, as far as a wide receiver quarterback tandem. Dez Bryant's stats the last couple of years just really, they're not good. They're number 2 receiver stats. The guy's getting paid $16 million a year to go out and be a number 1 receiver, and he just simply hasn't been playing like it. All right? So there was that, and it's just a matter of there was a sideline outburst, everything, and it was just a matter of if the Cowboys wanted to deal with it. Okay? And it seems like they chose not to. All right? Dez Bryant's now a free agent, and, I mean, does this make Dallas worse? No. Does it make them better? No. Doesn't really do anything for Dallas here. All right. If anything, it was just best for both sides to move on. I can see that Dez Bryant is taking it very personal. I mean, he's retweeting a player saying that he shouldn't have got cut. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. He's personal. And then I saw, let's see. I think he's thinking possibly of maybe signing within the division, probably playing for a team like the Giants or Redskins now. I don't really see the Eagles being a possibility. He sent out a tweet saying, if I didn't have my edge, I got it now, ... I'm sorry they got to feel me. It's personal, ... It's very personal, all right? He tweeted that after he got cut. All right. And there's another one. He tweeted out, all right? It's about how he wants to play against Dallas and all in 2018. Then he quote tweeted that, put a question mark twice, question mark, let's see. So obviously he's thinking about playing within the division. All right, and as for the Cowboys, I mean, I understand, I guess, why Dez Bryant is bitter about the whole thing. At one point in time, he was the best player on this offense, back when Tony Romo was the quarterback. All right, there was a time where if you would have cut Dez Bryant from the Cowboys or traded him away, that would have made the Cowboys worse. But now, so it's just an offense that they're running where Dez Bryant isn't really a factor. All right, like I said, you could throw a guy like Allen Hurns in there, and there's not really going to be much of a difference, honestly. All right? Obviously, the ability from Allen Hurns to Dez Bryant is completely different. I mean, Dez Bryant is twice the receiver that Allen Hurns is, but nonetheless, I mean, Allen Hurns can go out and produce what Dez Bryant was producing with the Cowboys. All right? I do understand the fact that probably Dez Bryant wanted to retire as a Cowboy. Obviously, that's not happening. And I'm sure that him and Jerry were close. All right, I saw that Jerry Jones was very fond of Dez Bryant, so this cutting him was hard to do and all that. But nonetheless, like I said, it doesn't make them better. It doesn't make them worse. They're still them with or without Dez Bryant does not change my prediction for them this season. I still figure they could be a 10-win team, 11-win team, whatever. All right, but now it's just a matter of what's next for Dez Bryant, I guess you could say. All right. Is he going to, like I said, play within the division, maybe go to the Giants or Redskins? If he were to go to the Eagles, that would be the best thing ever. All right. Now I want him to go to the Eagles. Eagles or Giants. I would not want to see him on the Redskins because it's kind of like Deshaun Jackson getting cut from the Eagles going to the Redskins. It's not going to work. The Redskins just aren't a team that they're not going to compete at all. All right. I would love to see him on New York or on Philly because of the fact that I figure as of right now, those are probably Dallas' two biggest rivals. I mean, Washington at one point is probably Dallas' all-time biggest rival, but Washington stinks. Just put it nicely, all right? Washington is terrible. So I would like to see him go to Philly. If it was to Philly, I mean, it's like DeMarco Murray leaving Dallas and going to Philly. Obviously, DeMarco Murray and Philly didn't work out, but nonetheless, I think Dez Bryant could work out there. They cut what? Torrey Smith? You brought in Mike Wallace, though, so maybe, I don't know. Probably there's no room there for Dez Bryant, but nonetheless, I'd like to see him there or in New York, but who knows there. There are some other options for Dez Bryant. I mean, you got San Francisco. Would New England be an option? Possibly. And that's one thing, too. I mean, how much do we think Dez Bryant gets on the open market now? All right, you're not paying for the Dez Bryant who was putting up numbers with Tony Romo. You're paying for the guy who recently put up these low numbers with a guy like Dak Prescott. All right, are you going to give him a lot of money expecting him to pretty much reach what he used to be? Or are you going to pay him what he's probably worth now because of the fact that he's not producing really? All right. It's going to be very interesting to see wherever Dez goes, like how well he's going to perform. Because I'm under the impression right now that it's just a matter of his production drop because Dak Prescott's playing quarterback. Dak Prescott is Alex Smith 2.0. All right? There's no doubt about it. Dak Prescott doesn't like to take chances. He doesn't throw the ball deep. All right? He's a safe, nice quarterback. All right? The offense does not revolve around Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott revolves around Ezekiel Elliott. But nonetheless, when you got to throw the ball, you need people out there that are going to pretty much be good fits for a guy like Dak Prescott. Allen Hurns, Cole Beasley, and they still got Terrence Williams, which makes no sense to me. They're going to have to end up drafting a receiver, I think, either in the first or second round. Maybe a Calvin Ridley or a Christian Kirk type guy, but even then, so I feel like Calvin Ridley's more so a big play type of receiver. Like I said, Dak Prescott just isn't a big play type of quarterback. All right, we saw when Ezekiel Elliott left, I mean, Dak Prescott pretty much looked terrible. His accuracy was bad. Everything was bad. All right, he needs Ezekiel Elliott out there to play well, but nonetheless, as far as getting back to Dez Bryant, I mean, I think he'd probably be the best fit in San Francisco. All right, you got an up-and-coming quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo who can make those throws. All right, you have no number one receiver on that team, so Dez will get his targets. He will get his receptions. And like I said, they're ready to start competing. But it's a matter of, yesterday I talked about like Reuben Foster on the GSMC football podcast because obviously Reuben Foster got charged with 3 felonies and all that. But San Francisco's trying to build a culture. All right, they're in that part of their rebuild now. They pretty much have an idea of who's going to stay, who's not going to be there, and all that. They're pretty much on the come up, ready to take over that second spot in the NFC West. I mean, the number one team in the NFC West is LA right now, so it's not even close. Right now, San Francisco's trying to jump Seattle as far as that spot goes in number 2. And now you're just trying to build a culture. All right, we've seen Dez Bryant in his career blow up on the sideline, yelling at quarterbacks, yelling at coaches, doing all that. Okay? Jimmy Garoppolo's only been in the league for what? 3-4 years, I think it is. You want Dez Bryant yelling at Jimmy Garoppolo if Jimmy's not getting him enough targets in the game? All right, do you? I'm not so sure. I think Dez Bryant, like I said, would be a good fit there. I don't think that'd be much of a problem because of the fact that I feel like San Francisco's a little bit better run as far as the coaching staff than Dallas. All right, I would take Kyle Shanahan over Jason Garrett any day of the week. The only reason why I think Jason Garrett is still the head coach of the Cowboys because I think he's a yes man. All right, I don't think he's a great coach by any means. I mean, he's never really done anything really too big. I mean, 2 playoff appearances, I think it is, since he's taken over. Never really did much. I mean, did they win a playoff game when I don't think they won a playoff game when Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott took him there. And I don't think they won a playoff game when Tony Romo was there. They might have won one, but I think they got blown out the next game, didn't they? I don't know. I have to double check. But yeah, I just don't think Jason Garrett's that great of a coach. And I figure that right now, San Francisco got a better, organization than Dallas right now as far as the coaching staff and the GM goes and all that. All right? I just don't think that, as of right now, I'm not even sure. I guess you could say that Dallas right now is better than San Francisco, but it's a matter of Dallas has a terrible defense. All right? They have a weak secondary. Terrible defense, probably a stretch. I should have said a terrible secondary. San Francisco's defense, I'd take them over Dallas's, and it's just a matter of Dallas has Ezekiel Elliott, San Francisco doesn't, so I guess that's why I'm taking Dallas over them. But you throw Dez Bryant on San Francisco, I feel like his production is going to go up. All right? Jimmy Garoppolo can make those big-time throws that Dak Prescott refuses to. Okay, and it's not really a knock on Dak Prescott to be like a guy like Alex Smith. All right? That's not at all. That's fine. Alex Smith, I think, is a very fine quarterback in this league. But it's just a matter of Dez Bryant was never going to work there. And if Dez Bryant does end up going to some team in the NFC East, the only team that really has a true possibility of winning some ball games, I guess you could say, is Philly. I'm still kind of about New York. I'm not really sure what's going on there. Got to see how Eli Manning plays this year. Got to see what's going on with Odell Beckham Jr. Imagine Odell Beckham Jr. and Dez Bryant on the same field. They still got Brandon Marshall, too. Could that work? Or is that way too many personalities and egos on one? I don't think that would work. That's way too many egos on one team. All right, I think the whole thing with Dez Bryant, talking about how he could possibly play within the division still, I think it's just a matter of he's hurt. All right, I'm for sure he's not happy about the fact that Dallas cut him. All right, just decided to go with the younger guys. And pretty much this is like a whole new direction type thing here. All right, so we'll see about it, but if I had to make my pick for where Dez ends up, I'd say it's San Francisco or maybe Washington. Because like I said, I don't really see him fitting into New York, and I don't think Philly really has the kind of money to give a guy like Dez Bryant. It's possible. You got Mike Wallace there, though, too, and Alshon Jeffrey, so maybe you could throw Mike Wallace in the slot, possibly, but we'll see about it, because you still got Nelson Aguilar there, too, so I don't know. Either way, we'll see. But next up, we're going to be talking NBA playoffs, though. I got some thoughts to give up on some of the series. I know we talked about a couple of them yesterday, or pretty much all of them yesterday as far as which ones we're looking forward to. We're going to go a little bit more in-depth with them, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Alright, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. So far today, we've just had one segment. We talked about Dez Bryant being cut by the Dallas Cowboys. Guess he wanted to retire as a Cowboy. That's not happening at all. Alright, he'll never be back. Now it's just a matter of where does he end up? San Francisco, New York, Washington, Philly by some miracle. I don't know. Maybe New England. I don't know. What are there? Maybe Tennessee. Tennessee's a possible landing spot there. I feel like Baltimore probably should have waited a little bit before signing Michael Crabtree. You could have had Dez Bryant. But nonetheless, there's that. All right. Always NFL news. Always. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is. There's always something coming out. But nonetheless, we talked about that for the first segment. Now we're going to talk about some NBA playoff series. We talked about a couple of them, or most of them yesterday, but nonetheless, now I'm going to give you the series I think that could possibly end up with the lower seeded team knocking off the higher seeded team. All right, so let's do that. What do we got going on here? All right, we got Toronto versus Washington, Golden State versus San Antonio, Houston versus Minnesota, Cleveland versus Indiana, Utah versus Oklahoma City, Portland versus New Orleans. Then we got Boston versus Milwaukee, and Philly versus Miami. And I think I already mentioned the Cleveland and Indiana series. All right, which one do I want to start off with? Let's start off with Toronto and Washington. All right, that series very well could end up with Washington coming out as the winner. Okay, and let me tell you why. Obviously, the biggest thing with the Raptors has been, this season has been, they're really good. All right, great bench, great starting five, best team in the East. But, all right, there's always a but with this team. And the but is, what can they do in the playoffs? We've seen time after time, no matter what this team does during the regular season, no matter how good they look, no matter how hyped up they get, no matter how many times they sell out the stadium or the arena, all right, something always goes wrong. And I wonder if Raptors fans pretty much understand, if they realize that, yes, we did this in the regular season. We played really well. We beat teams like Cleveland. We beat teams like Boston. But, I mean, when is the eventual collapse coming in the playoffs? I wonder if that's how they are now, because of the fact that it's been happening for so long. All right. Whenever they play LeBron in the playoffs, they freeze. Whenever they play anyone in the second round, they freeze. All right. Kyle Lowry is the biggest definition of that. And that's one of the biggest things right here. Is Kyle Lowry finally going to show up in the playoffs? It's almost kind of like an interesting, fun thing to watch for. All right. Because of the fact that the dude just shrinks. It's ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it, really. All right. Let's see. Is there anyone in the playoffs who has pretty much just not showed up like a guy like Kyle Lowry? I can't think of anyone off the top of my head right now. Honestly, I can't. Just going from the great player that Lowry is, and the playoffs come, and he plays like he's from the G League. All right? And it's 6. Kyle Lowry seems like a really nice guy, but the dude just shrinks when the playoffs come. That's probably the biggest worry for the Raptors right now. All right? Is he going to step up? DeMar DeRozan plays well. I don't think DeMar DeRozan's ever really been a guy who pretty much just shrinks when the playoffs come around. But nonetheless, I mean, it's going to come down to Lowry. It doesn't matter how well Fred VanVleet is playing. It doesn't matter how well Jakob Poeltl is playing, how well the bench is playing, how well DeRozan is playing, how well Valanciunas is playing. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. All right? Kyle Lowry isn't playing well, and Toronto stands no chance, and it's going to be tough because Kyle Lowry doesn't have any time, doesn't have time to go out and pretty much get warmed up for the playoffs. You got to be good, ready from the jump, because of the fact that you're playing a Washington Wizards team with John Wall, all right, Bradley Beal, Markieff Morris, guys that have been there before, a team that was a game away from playing in the Eastern Conference Finals. All right, Kelly Olynyk doesn't have the best game of his life. Chances are Washington's in the Eastern Conference Finals playing against the Cavs, and Washington looked mighty good last year. All right, and I'm sure Washington has it in their mind that they should have been there, and now they're pretty much not going to let that stop them this year. All right. But there's the thing with Washington. The thing with Washington is they haven't really played well since John Wall came back. Let me see how they finished out their last 10 this season. I think it was pretty bad too. Let me see. They ended up finishing, I think it was what? Yeah, actually it was, let me see. They finished 3-7 in their last 10. And I think they were on a recent 4-game winning streak or 4-game losing streak before that too. All right, Washington just simply hasn't looked good. Let me see how many points they're scoring. They're scoring 106, giving up 106. So, I mean, not really great there. I think that's good for third most. Yeah, that's good for third most in the top 8 of the East. So it's just with Washington. If Washington can figure out a way to work as a cohesive unit and play well all around, then Toronto's in trouble. All right, and like I said, I think this is probably one of those series I'm looking most forward to, because of the fact that we're going to see how well Kyle Lowry plays. It's almost like watching Lonzo Ball. For me, at least, it's almost like watching Lonzo Ball his first few games with the Lakers. you're going to tune in because of the fact that you want to see how well the guy's going to play. You got LeVar Ball and pretty much ESPN talking about him nonstop. So obviously you're going to want to tune in. You're going to see if he plays well. That's the same thing with Kyle Lowry for me, except it's the playoffs. All right, I'm going to be tuning in to those first few Raptor games to be seeing how well Kyle Lowry plays. Is he going to show up, or is he just going to pretty much be that guy who, I mean, it's like I always say, the Monster stole his talent like in Space Jam. So we'll see about it, but like I said, very intrigued as to what goes on there. I think, if anything, Toronto's not the team I could see getting upset the most. I think that might even be, believe it or not, Philly. All right, Philly's going to be playing Miami in the first round. Miami's the 6th seed, Philly the 3 seed. Obviously, home court's in Philly. And Philly has been on a run. All right, they finished off winning 16 in a row. Okay, playing well. Been without Joel Embiid for a lot. Back half of that streak. But, okay, there's a but. Miami has, I could say, had Philly's number this season. I believe Miami took 2 out of 3 against Philly this season. And it's just a matter of, I think, so we won't have Joel Embiid playing game 1, okay? If Joel Embiid, let's say, doesn't play the first 2 games of this series, Philly is in trouble. Miami, I think, will get at least 1 win out of the first 2 games of the series. It might be game 1, since Joel Embiid definitely isn't playing game 1, or it might even be game 2. But if Joel Embiid doesn't play the first 2 games of the series, and let's say Miami goes out and gets 2 wins there, I don't see Philly getting back. All right, Philly's got to go out and get at least game 1. They need to get the game without Embiid. All right, they do that, and Philly probably is ready to go. But nonetheless, like I said, it's like there's a big coaching factor with it too. All right, I do think that Eric Spoelstra is 10 times the coach that Brett Brown is. All right, when I say 10 times, that's like minimum. All right, Eric Spoelstra knows, he's like a Brad Stevens. Yeah, he's like a Brad Stevens pretty much. He knows what works for his players, he knows what doesn't work, and he knows where to put them on the court in order to give them the best opportunity to succeed. And that's why the Heat made the playoffs this year. I mean, it's not like they got any great players. Hassan Whiteside isn't really that much of a game changer, I don't think. Goran Dragic was good this season on All-Star. But other than that, guys like Josh Richardson, Tyler Johnson, Wayne Ellington, you think that those guys would be as good as they are in Miami anywhere else? I don't think so. You think Brett Brown could coach those guys? They might be all right. All right. Spoelstra knows pretty much, and this is one thing that he barely started getting credit for because of the fact that, I mean, when he was coaching Bosch, LeBron, and Wade, everyone thought that, yeah, it's just those 3 guys running the show. Spoelstra has no idea what he's doing. Kind of like what Ty Lue is to the Cavs right now. All right? I believe it in my mind, Ty Lue's just not a good coach. I honestly think that LeBron's the one running the show and all that. All right? Spoelstra, though, with Miami, I think that's different. I think Spoelstra actually was helping run the show. And obviously, when you're coaching the LeBron team, he's going to have say in what you guys do and all that, at least. But nonetheless, Spoelstra does know what he's doing. All right? And I just think with Miami right now, they're a team that matches up tough with Philly. All right? Like I said, I'm pretty sure that Miami took 2 out of 3 against Philly this season. So it's going to be a tough little series for them. All right? But nonetheless, I mean, it is going to be a fun one to watch. And it's just a matter of how well Dragic plays and how Spoelstra pretty much draws up a game plan to limit Ben Simmons. All right? Ben Simmons is the X factor in the series, I think. We know what Embiid can do. We're going to be seeing him and Whiteside go at it. But Ben Simmons, all right, it's playoff time. He's been getting to the rim a lot. Hasn't had to shoot the ball much. But let's say what happens if Miami ends up clogging the lane and Ben Simmons can't score that way. Okay? What happens then? Is he just going to pass the ball and get rebounds? Or is he going to be able to produce points any other way? Late game situations, Ben Simmons can't really take free throws or anything like that. He's not much of a factor there. All right, so it's going to be very interesting to see how Spoelstra pretty much draws up plans and stuff like that against a guy like Simmons. All right, I still think that Philly, I don't know, I kind of want to go with Miami in this series. And that's one thing, too. I'll probably make my picks for this series rather than just making my picks for the games this weekend. But nonetheless, I mean, it is going to be a tough series for Philly. I could see this easily going 7 games, no doubt. All right, so let's see. I mean, as far as Boston and Milwaukee go, I know Boston's hurt, but I just do not think that Milwaukee is a well-coached team at all, and I just think that Brad Stevens is going to be able to get them out the first round at least. As far as Cleveland and Indiana go, I mean, Indiana, I don't know. Indiana needs to play pretty much just perfect against the Cavs in order to get out the first round. So I think right now the two teams who are most likely to get upset in the East are Philly and Toronto. Let's see what's going on in the Western Conference. I guess you could say Oklahoma City, they're the 4 seed. Utah's the 5 seed. Oklahoma City could get upset in the first round. I mean, either team could be the 4 or the 5 seed. Really, like they got the same record and all that. Similar home records. I mean, Oklahoma City was 27-14 at home. Jazz 28-13, and then vice versa on the away records. Thunder were 21-20. Jazz were 20-21. Let's see. That's 10 games. The Jazz were 7-3. Thunder were 5-5, but did win 3 in a row. Jazz have the best defense in the West right now. Oklahoma City has not even close to the best offense in the West. So, I mean, that series can go either way. I would not be surprised if Utah ends up taking that series. So, I mean, that's not really much of an upset there. It's just a matter of a 4 and a 5 seed. I mean, they're both interchangeable there. As far as Portland and New Orleans go, I mean, New Orleans could get the win in that series there. That's what's one of those where, like, the West... The East, okay, yeah, this team is definitely the 3 seed, this team is definitely the 4 seed, but in the West, it's pretty much, these teams are all pretty even matched as far as 3 through 8, all right? So there's not really any true upsets, I guess. Like, I don't think San Antonio could really upset the Warriors unless Kawhi were to come back, which I'm not even sure if he ever will. Minnesota and the Rockets, I mean, Minnesota could give them a bit of a scare, but that's it. So, I mean, there's no real, like, true upsets here in the West. I mean, it's going to be between Pelicans and Trailblazers and the Thunder and Jazz, so we'll see about it, but I'm actually going to wrap it up there. Next up, we're going to talk Champions League. All right, so stay tuned, and we will be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. So far today, we've talked Dez Bryant, we've talked NBA playoffs, talked about the series that I see where the higher seed gets upset. Probably more so, like which series I see where the higher seed gets upset. All right, talked about Washington versus Toronto, and then Philly versus Miami, and then as far as the West goes, I mean, those teams are all pretty even. I mean, there's no real, like, the seeding, obviously, it's there for a reason, but I don't think that Portland is that much better, if better at all, than New Orleans, and I don't think, off anything, I think that the Jazz are better than the Thunder, so I really don't see those as upsets. I can't really talk about them. I'm talking about, like, real, true upsets here, but nonetheless, that's what we did. And then, like I said, we talked about the whole Dez Bryant thing. He got cut by the Cowboys. Now it's a matter of where is he going to end up now? It seems like he's pretty taking it pretty much to heart right here. I mean, he's tweeting about it. Tweeted Cowboys Nation saying that it wasn't him who asked to be cut and he didn't want to be cut and all that. So, I don't know. Dez Bryant seems pretty tore up about the fact that he got cut by the Cowboys. I'm sure he pretty much saw himself finishing his career there, but nonetheless, that's not happening. All right, so that's how the show's gone so far. Now we're going to be talking, what are we talking? We're talking Champions League, okay? Been a fun little interesting tournament so far. Quarterfinals, we saw Manchester City losing to Liverpool. We saw Barcelona pretty much rolling over and letting Roma beat them. All right, I mean, all Barcelona had to do was score one goal. All right, score one goal and they advanced, and they couldn't even do that. All right, but nonetheless, there's that. All right, who else? Madrid almost gave it up to Juventus, but the ref ended up giving Madrid a penalty at the end so they could win. And I mean, I guess it was a penalty. I guess. But I still think it was a soft one. And I still think giving Buffon a red card is a bit harsh. All right, give him the yellow. It's a warning. And if he keeps going at you, yelling at you, then you give him the red. I don't like giving him the straight red. I feel like that's a ref pretty much trying to insert himself as far as trying to be part of the show. All right, I didn't like it at all. And as far as Bayern, I mean, they probably had the most boring aggregate of them all against Sevilla. They won 2-1 last week and then ended up winning or drawing 0-0 this week. So they ended up advancing. So like I said, we had Liverpool, Roma, Madrid, and Bayern advancing into the semifinals. Now it was a matter of who's playing who. The draw happened early this morning. It was like at 4 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern time. And it's going to be Madrid versus Bayern. And then we got Liverpool versus Roma. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay? If you've been listening, you know that I want to see Madrid versus Liverpool in the final. Okay? And that's not because, I don't hate your team, Bayern Munich fans. I don't hate your team, Roma fans. I just would like to see Liverpool versus Madrid. All right? Sue me. Actually, don't do that. Do not do that. But nonetheless, Bayern versus Madrid is kind of like, it is a rematch from last year. Pretty much exactly the same thing that happened to Juventus this year happened to Bayern Munich last year against Madrid, except it happened like the 83rd, 84th minute, I think it was. All right, Bayern Munich was coming back. They were tied, I think it was. Madrid gets a penalty within, like in the 83rd or 84th minute. They score, they advance. All right, obviously we saw that this year with Juventus and Madrid, and I'm very curious to see too what happens with Buffon. This was supposed to be his last year playing soccer. Was supposed to retire at the World Cup, but obviously that just never really happened because of the fact that Italy just blew it and didn't even make the World Cup. Probably wanted an opportunity to win the Champions League as he never has, and didn't get that opportunity. So I'm very curious to see. Is Buffon going to come back, or is he just going to retire? And if I'm him, you just got to retire. All right. There's a better chance of Juventus getting knocked out in the Champions League again next year rather than them winning it. All right. And I feel like that's the only thing he has left to play for is the Champions League. And how long are you going to go about it until you realize, you know what, it's just not going to happen. The guy's won World Cups. He's won league titles. He's won domestic cups. He's won it all. All right. Has he ever won the Euros with Italy? I don't think so. I'd have to double check. But nonetheless, I mean, he's won all the big tournaments. The only thing he's really missing is the Champions League. I mean, the Euro didn't really matter. But nonetheless, like I said, I think it's just time he hangs him up. Best goalie all time. No problem saying that. But nonetheless, I mean, what left is there? You're not winning the Champions League next year, most likely. You want to go through a whole nother season just to try and win the Champions League, whether that means, playing all the league games, playing in domestic cup games, international games, unless Donnarumma is already the starting goalie for Italy. And then you got to go through Champions League all again. I don't know. I feel like that's a little too much. But nonetheless, we'll see about it. But like I said, we got Madrid versus Bayern. We got Ronaldo, Ramos, we got Boateng, James, Lewandowski. It'll be interesting to see. And as you know, Lewandowski's been linked to Madrid for like the last couple of years, I feel. Maybe Lewandowski's playing against his future team. Who knows? But those are probably going to be the most exciting games there. Bayern and Madrid, the two of them. I'm curious to see who's playing at home first and who's not. All right, but nonetheless, I think that Madrid honestly probably will end up taking this one. All right. And of course, I'm picking Madrid to advance because I want to see them play Liverpool. But nonetheless, whenever I have an idea of like, oh yeah, I want to see this as a final, I want to see these two teams play each other, it almost never happens that way. So if you're a Bayern Munich fan, you should be very, very happy that I'm picking Madrid right now. All right, but nonetheless, I think it'll be close. I would not be surprised at all if Bayern Munich ended up winning. And I wouldn't mind a Bayern Munich versus a Liverpool final. I'm sorry, Roma, I just don't want to see that team in the final. But nonetheless, Bayern Munich's been playing lights out so far this season. Haven't really been stopped. Madrid have pretty much given up in La Liga and have dominated Champions League so far. So now I guess you could say, I'll say this, okay? Bayern Munich and Madrid are the two best teams left in the Champions League. And probably the two best teams so far that have played in Champions League, okay? As far as results have gone their way so far. Manchester City was pretty solid, but I don't think they were ever better than Madrid in the Champions League so far, even better than Bayern Munich. And as far as Barcelona goes, I think I feel comfortable saying that they weren't even better than Madrid or Bayern Munich in the Champions League either at any point in time. I think that Bayern Munich and Real Madrid have always been the top two teams this season so far in Champions League, and now we got them playing each other in the semifinals. All right, and it would be fun maybe if Bayern Munich ended up drawing Liverpool or Roma and having them play Madrid in the final, but nonetheless, I mean, at least we get to see it twice, right? Like I said, it's a rematch from last year, and usually in sports, I mean, obviously, it's like I said earlier, I wasn't superstitious or anything like that, but it's just usually with fate and stuff like that. You lose the year before, you get your redemption the next year, chances are you're going to end up winning it, but I just don't see it happening this way, this time. All right, it's like Madrid is like the big bad person of Champions League, and they constantly win. There is no redemption story, there is no luck or anything like that. It's probably going to lose, but nonetheless, going to be very interesting to see how these two teams play each other. I think Ramos, I think he's going to be back for the semifinals. Probably see Ronaldo, Bale starting up top, Isco starting along with Casemiro, Modric, and Kroos, and then the back four of Varane or whoever they've had back there, Ramos, Marcelo, and Carvajal, and then Navas playing goalie. And as far as Bayern, they got a bunch of options there. I mean, you could have Muller starting, you could have Thiago starting. It doesn't really matter there, but nonetheless, it's going to be an interesting two legs there. Very curious to see what ends up happening, who ends up winning, but nonetheless, like I said, it is going to be fun, and I'm going to enjoy it. All right, Champions League has been very good so far. I'm really happy that we got Liverpool and Roma in the semifinals. Usually it's always the top teams, but nonetheless, we got the underdogs out here, okay? And who would have thought that Roma would make it this far, honestly? Especially getting past a team like Barcelona. I understand maybe if they were to be playing a bunch of weaker teams throughout, but no, they got Barcelona. Who do they play in the round of 16? Didn't they have a solid round of 16 opponent? I might just be thinking of someone else, but let me see. Let me double check that actually. I want to see Roma's little direction, little path through the Champions League. All right, so they played Shakhtar in the round of 16. So obviously, I mean, they did come from behind there, though. I'll give them that. They were down 2-1 in the first leg, had one away goal, and then ended up winning 1-0 at home, so advanced 2-2 on away goals. All right? And it's not like, oh, yeah, they had an easy path or anything like that, because of the fact, look at their group. They had Atletico Madrid, they had Chelsea. All right? They lost to Atletico and drew with them. They beat Chelsea once and then drew with them 3-3. Beat them 3-0 and then drew with them 3-3. And then played Karabakh and beat them both times there. All right? Nonetheless, they get out. They beat Shakhtar. And they're down 4-1 against Barcelona. Second leg comes. They end up winning 3-0 at home, which is ridiculous. I don't understand how Barcelona gives up that many goals, but nonetheless, they did. And then now we got them versus Liverpool. All right, Roma might just be a team of destiny here. Who knows? But even then, so Liverpool could possibly be a team of destiny. All right, Liverpool have. Let me see Liverpool's little path here too throughout the Champions League. Let's see real quick. Yeah, so Liverpool didn't have the toughest round of 16 opponent. They had to play Porto, ended up winning 5-0 on aggregate. As far as their group goes, I mean, they did have to play a little play-in match against Hoffenheim, and Hoffenheim, I think, have kind of struggled this. Actually, I think they're top 8 in the Bundesliga right now, but nonetheless, they knocked off Hoffenheim in that playoff 6-3. And their group wasn't that tough by any means or anything like that. They played Sevilla, who played Bayern in the quarterfinals, so I guess that's pretty decent there, and they had Spartak Moscow, so not really the toughest group, but nonetheless, I mean, knocking off Man City, who has been the best team in England, 5-1 on aggregate, is pretty notable there. All right, but nonetheless, you got Liverpool versus Roma, Mohamed Salah versus his old team. Going to be very interesting to see how these two teams stack up against each other. I think Liverpool is the better squad right now. They're playing the better football right now. So it's going to be very interesting to see what ends up happening here. But like I said, I mean, my picks for the semifinal rounds are Liverpool and Real Madrid. I'd like to see that happen because of the fact that these teams are probably the two most historic teams in the Champions League left. I mean, Bayern's a pretty historic team, but nonetheless, I mean, Liverpool at one point were the most dominant team in England. All right, so I'm going to be very interesting to see what happens there, but nonetheless, looking forward to it. All right, Champions League's been real good. I would like to see maybe a team other than Real Madrid win it. I mean, they've won it, 2 out of the last 3 years, and the Spanish team has won it 3 out of the last 4 years, with Barcelona beating Juventus that 1 year, I think it was. So, plus you've had Atletico Madrid in the final, I think 2 out of the last 3 years too. So, we'll see about it though. It's going to be very interesting to see how it all ends up. But nonetheless, we'll see if an English team is able to take back the Champions League, or if it's going to be Spanish dominance, or maybe Bayern Munich finally gets through. I think last time Bayern Munich won Champions League was against Dortmund that 1 year, I think it was. I think that's when Dortmund still had Lewandowski and Götze and all those guys. But nonetheless, I mean, maybe Roma surprises. Maybe an Italian team ends up winning it. All right, maybe Roma end up knocking off Liverpool and making it into the final, and maybe shocking whoever they play. And it'd be a shock if Roma ended up making it to the final and knocking out, and they beat Bayern Munich or Real Madrid. So we'll see. Maybe, like I said, though, Roma may just be the team of destiny. But we're going to wrap it up there. Next up, we're going to be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports. Probably going to talk about yesterday's hockey games. Capitals, I don't know if it's their year. Lost to the Blue Jackets. Sharks pretty much. Anaheim stood no chance in that one. Then we had a couple of other games going on. So we'll be talking about that. Red Sox, Yankees. I think Red Sox won yesterday. Ended up taking the series 2-1. So we'll see anything else going on in the world of baseball. And like I said, we'll be making my picks maybe for the playoff series, or just making my picks for this weekend's game. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. So far today, we've talked Dez Bryant, no longer a Dallas Cowboy. Where's Dez going to end up? No one has any clue. Is it going to be back in the NFC East? Is it going to be in the NFC West? Who knows? All right, but nonetheless, he's gone. Second segment, we talked about some of the series in the NBA playoff series. I could see where the higher seed gets upset. Talked about Raptors Wizards. Talked about Sixers Heat. And as far as the West goes, those teams are all pretty evenly matched, so I mean, don't even bother there. Talked about that. We talked Champions League. We got Liverpool versus Roma and Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid. Going to be a fun semifinal to watch. But nonetheless, I'd like to see Liverpool versus Madrid in the final. So those are my picks as far as who's getting past two. All right, so we did that. And then for this segment, as we always do, I'm going to be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports. So let's do that. All right, and when I talk about anything else, I mean Mark Sanchez. Who would have thought that we'd be talking about him today? Nonetheless, Mark Sanchez is going to be suspended for the first 4 games of the 2018 season for failing a PED test. All right, Mark Sanchez. And it's pretty out there, pretty crazy, the fact that Mark Sanchez is still a quarterback in the league. All right, Mark Sanchez, how good was, I have to double check Mark Sanchez's stats now. All right. Mark Sanchez played in 2 AFC championship games. Do we realize that? Do we understand that he went from that to being the third quarterback for the Bears? All right. But let's see what Mark Sanchez has done so far in his NFL career. Let's see. 2009 is rookie year with the Jets. Started 15 games, went 8-7. All right. 53% completion percentage. Nearly 2,500 yards, 12 touchdowns. Let's see, 20 interceptions. 2010 goes 11-5. All right, 54% completion percentage. Over 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, 13 picks. Let's see, what were the years he made the playoffs? Those are the years I want to focus on there. I want to see how good he was then. Let's see, 2009 and 2010. Are those really the years he went to the playoffs? Come on now. Come on, I think those are. Playoffs 2009, 2010. So his rookie year where he didn't really do much, and then year 2. Mark Sanchez really didn't have too many bad years with the Jets. I mean, he went 8-7, 11-5, and 8-8. Went 6-9 in 2012, and that was all she wrote there. Mark Sanchez was never really a great quarterback. I mean, his best year was 2010. We threw 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. I mean, 2011 he threw for nearly 3,500 yards, had 26 touchdowns, 18 picks there. And as far as 2014, I mean, he started 8 games with Philly, went 4-4, had a way better completion percentage, 64%, nearly 2,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, 11 picks. 2015, he started 2 games, went 0-2. Not really great there. And in 2016, he was with Dallas. But, yeah, Mark Sanchez never really, I don't know, the butt fumble guy. That's what I know him as now. I mean, he's never going to lose that either. That's always going to be Mark Sanchez's thing. He's the butt fumble guy. Remember that play? Remember how bad that game was? Thanksgiving against the New England Patriots in New York, I think it was. And New York was down by like double digits by the time by the time the kickoff started. They were down double digits pretty much. I mean, they stood no chance whatsoever. Anything that could go wrong went wrong. I mean, we had the butt fumble. One of the all-time greatest highlights too, mind you. All right, but nonetheless, that's what Mark Sanchez is going to be known for the rest of his career. Kind of sad, but it's kind of funny too. Was he a great quarterback? Was he a great quarterback at USC? Can we say great? Didn't he win the Rose Bowl? I guess he was pretty good at USC. But either way, we had NHL playoffs going on yesterday. This is the most we've ever talked NHL. All right? Last couple of days we've been on it. But nonetheless, like I said, had NHL playoffs. Had the Tampa Bay Lightning knocking off the New Jersey Devils 5-2. New Jersey really never stood any chance in this one. I think what was it? Yeah, Tampa Bay puts up 2 in the first period. New Jersey gets one back in the second, but Tampa Bay scores that period too and then gets 2 more in the third, along with New Jersey getting a little garbage time goal there. So it was 5-2 there. I mean, like I said, they stood no chance whatsoever. Taylor Hall? Is it Taylor Hall or Tyler Hall? Either way, Hall got his first goal in his first playoff game, I think it was too. Then we had the Bruins facing off with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I figured that maybe this was going to be a nice little decent game, see what Austin Matthews does, and he did nothing. All right, Brad Marchand scored in this one. They won 5-1, the Bruins did, and Bruins are looking just as good as, I mean, I know it's the first game, but I would not be surprised if maybe we see the Bruins versus the Penguins in the Eastern Conference Finals. Then we had the Columbus Blue Jackets facing off with the Washington Capitals. Classic Capitals here. Classic, all right? Up 2-0. Looking good, playing well, and they lose. All right, lost 4-3 in overtime, like I said. Scored 2 in the first period. We're up 2-0. Second period comes, Columbus scores 1, up 2-1 still Washington, and then in the third period, they give up 2 to Columbus, score 1, so it's 3-3. Overtime comes, that's all she wrote. Columbus scores in overtime, and that's game. You think Ovechkin's going to spend the rest of his career in Washington? I'm not sure what his contract is looking like right now, but, I mean, it's just a matter of if you're not winning anything, kind of like Bryce Harper, all right? Bryce Harper's not winning anything with the Nationals. He's going to have to go out and do something, all right? Maybe that's what Ovechkin does, but I don't see it happening. But, I mean, that'd just be ridiculous to spend your career with a team who you know will never win the title. Then we had over in the West, the Nashville Predators facing off with the Colorado Avalanche. This one pretty much went as well as you could expect it. Nashville won this one 5-2. All right. Colorado was actually up after the first period 1-0. Nashville ties it up in the second. They end up finishing the period 2-2, and then the third period comes, and Nashville puts 3 on them. So not really much of a contest there. So like I said, Predators won 5-2. And then for the final game of the night, we had the Sharks facing off with the Ducks. Both teams pretty evenly matched. I think the Ducks finished in second. The Pacific Sharks finished third. Ducks were a point ahead of the Sharks, won 5 in a row at the end of the season. Sharks, I think, has lost like 6 in a row. But nonetheless, I mean, the Sharks won this one 3-0. First period, both teams had a few chances. Sharks probably had more chances than the Ducks did in the first period. Second period comes, and the Sharks pretty much just dominate. Put 3 goals on the Ducks there. Vander Kane scores his first 2 playoff goals in his first playoff game. I think the first one came on a 5-on-3. Was all by himself in the center. Ends up hitting it. Goalie has no chance. And then the second came. I can't remember who gave him the pass, but nonetheless, I mean, String sneak in, brings it out, and ends up hitting it into the back. Falls down, but nonetheless got back up. It was all good. And Brent Burns hit one. I think the goalie should have ended up getting. I mean, it wasn't even like a Brent Burns shot, too, where he just pretty much lasers it in. It was a pretty nice little saucer pass, honestly, into the net. Is what it looked like. But nonetheless, Sharks scored 3 in the second, and then the third period comes, and Anaheim just really, it's like, Sharks didn't score at all in the third period, but it's like Anaheim really stood no chance still. All right, really couldn't get anything going. But nonetheless, like I said, the Sharks won that one 3-0. Martin Jones with the shutout, 25 saves. I think it's Gibson, 31 saves, but nonetheless gave up 3 goals there. Going to be interesting to see. The Ducks don't get game 2, and the Sharks end up winning that one. It's over. Series is over. It's all she wrote. The Ducks could get 1 game in San Jose, but coming back to Anaheim, did they play 3 games in a row? Or did they do the 2-2, 1 game, game 5 in Anaheim, Game 6 in San Jose, and then Game 7 back in Anaheim? Is that how it goes? I have to double check, but nonetheless, Anaheim doesn't win Game 2. Series is over, no doubt. Sharks just look 10 times faster, quicker, better, whatever it is, better than the Ducks. So we'll see about it. And had the Sox taken 2 out of 3 games against the Yankees, and the Yankees just don't look good right now. Even that game where they beat the Sox 8-6, or 10-7, 10-6 or 10-7. It was one of those. They just haven't looked good. I'm not really sure what it is. Maybe it's some preseason, some mid-season jitters, I guess, for Giancarlo Stanley. There was one where he's playing left field yesterday, and he goes to get the fly ball, and he's nowhere near it. He's by the fence, by the left field fence, and not the Green Monster, but the one, by the foul line. And the ball falls like 8 feet to the side of him. I'm not really sure what was going on there. Gary Sanchez, struggling as far as defensively as a catcher. The Yankees just don't look good right now. Sonny Gray stood no chance in that game. They got to figure it out, all right? I'm not sure what it is that they got to do, but you got to figure it out. So there's that. And Ohtani, the Angels player, dude's looking like a monster, all right? An absolute monster. Hitting home runs whenever he wants, getting base hits whenever he wants, striking out players whenever he wants. The dude is just ridiculous. But nonetheless, like I said, he's playing well. So let's make some picks for this weekend's games. We're going to do pretty much every game Saturday, and Sunday for the NBA. All right. Actually, I'm going to make my series picks, and then we'll go game by game. All right. So we got for the Rockets and Timberwolves, I'm going Rockets as far as winning the series. Warriors and Spurs. Kawhi Leonard doesn't come back. I'm picking Warriors. Trailblazers, Pelicans. I'm going to go Pelicans. I think Rondo's really going to play well in this series. Jazz versus Thunder. I got Jazz. And then in the East, I'll stick with Toronto. I think they're going to knock off the Wizards. I'm going to take Boston over Milwaukee. I'm going to take one upset. I'm going to go Miami over Philly. And I doubt it happens, but nonetheless, I'm going to just go ahead and make that pick because I'll sound smarter if it does happen. And then we got Cleveland versus Indiana. I got Cleveland there. So let's make my picks just for the games individually here, all right? I got the Warriors winning game 1. I got the Wizards winning game 1 against the Raptors. I got the Heat beating the Sixers. And then the Trailblazers knocking off the Pelicans, all right? And then for Sunday's games, I got the Celtics over the Bucks, Cavs over the Pacers, Jazz over the Thunder, and then the Rockets over the Timberwolves. All right? So those are my picks for all the game wins there. So that's going to wrap it up here for the show. Today we talked Dez Bryant. We talked, what else we talked? We talked Dez Bryant. We talked Champions League. We talked, NBA playoff upsets. And then for this segment, we spent a lot of it talking NHL. So thanks for listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. We'll be back on Tuesday, so stay tuned, and we'll talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.